for the 4251, you approved as is, plus the Area 1617, September 16th through the 23rd, correct?
Copy.
Which means you approved the non-residents to hunt with a rifle in Elko County, October 22nd through November 4th, correct? And then I also, in your 4151 motion, you approved both the early late seasons in October, November for those unit groups, but you added the September hunt in Area 16, 17,
Yep.
White Pine Range, and the Jarbidge.
I think that's covered. Thanks. So we've got a motion, a second on the table. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, proceed. Oh, we have one down here. Sorry, didn't see your hand.
Okay. Okay, I'm confused because I think what Mike Cox is saying is that, or no, well, let me first understand the motion. Is it to remove these completely?
Change season dates.
Okay, I think what he's saying is that if we change the season dates to, what it was, October 22nd to November 4th?
Second.
Same as the other ones.
That there will be some overlap between rifle and muzzleloader seasons.
But they can hunt muzzleloader and
So-
rifle anyway.
So that was the motion. That was the motion. Everybody understand the motion? Is that clear?
I'd like an offer an amendment.
You want to offer an amendment? Or make an amendment, excuse me.
Make an amendment, yes. I do have a general heartburn about having any weapon class in the rut. That's been my deal, but I do want to give opportunity to muzzleloaders, and I also want to give it to them where they don't have competition with rifle hunters. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I would offer an amendment that would be, okay, so how many days is this? This is 14 days? I would like to see a season that stops on October 21st and is the 14 days before that. And so if somebody could help me out with what that is on the calendar, that would be October what?
7th, or is it 8th? Well, that'd be 15 days, but okay, so number for 8, the 8th, huh?
8th? So
That's,
October
I don't
8th.
have a calendar, but
Okay, so basically, the amendment is to change the season dates for all the ones that are indicated here from September 16th to September 30th and change them to October 8th to October 21.
Yeah, basically, that's what it was last year. All these were October 20th, or they were the similar dates last year. And that's what my motion was, to put them back to where they were last year.
all right. So we have okay, so we had an amendment to the motion, and then that amendment was to make changes to 4156, which changes all season dates that as the department presents them are September 16th through September 30th, and change those dates to October 8th to October 21st, which changes the main motion, which was from 20th to October 20th through November 2nd. Okay. Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. Does everybody understand the amendment to the motion? Okay, we'll now vote on the amendment to the main motion. All in favor of that amendment, please signify by stating aye. All opposed? Okay, let's do by show of hands. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, we have 6 in favor and all opposed. Okay, we have Commissioner Howell and Commissioner Lent opposed, the other 6 in favor. So that motion to amend the motion passes. Now we'll vote on the main amendment, on the motion as amended, main motion as amended, which to have recommendations as presented by the department on 4156 with those dates of October 8th, the 21st, on the first 5 seasons as, for both years, as amended. Everybody understand the main motion as amended? Okay. Do we have that? Excellent. All in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. All opposed. Motion passes 8-0. Let's move right along. 4256. This is the one we had a couple, we did have some, okay, go ahead.
Then we should do the same on 4266 with the non-resident muzzleloader.
4256.
4256. Then we should, since we passed the resident muzzleloader hunt, early ones, October 8th to 21st, I would make a motion on 061, 071, 072, 074. We change those dates to match the resident, which would be October 8 to October 21. Is that right?
We have a motion, a second on the floor. Does everybody understand the motion? Do we have that? Was that clear in the record? Second was Commissioner Cavan. Okay, that's basically change all the season dates on 4256 that were that our department presented as 16th through the 30th September, and change all of those to 8th to 21st of October. Everybody understands the motion? All in favor of that motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we've an approved hunt 4256, and let's. That was a motion to approve everything with those modifications. That's what I heard, right? Anybody hear something totally different? Okay. Let's move on with, that has been approved, all the recommendations with those changes. 4161, resident elk antlered longbow archery hunt.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a recommendation to approve 4161 as recommended by the department.
And properly moved and seconded to approve 4161 is approved by the department. Discussion, amendments, seeing none, proceed to vote. All in favor signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 4161 is approved as presented by the department. 4261, non-resident antlered longbow archery. You want to roll?
Yeah. I make a motion, we accept hunt 4261 as recommended by the department with the reminder that these are within the 10% rule, right? The quotas would be within the 10% rule, because we have some new hunts.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve 4261 as presented with a reminder to the department that all of these hunts will be within the 10% rule. Does everybody understand the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by stating aye. All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. 4181. All right, on this one, I had a couple issues I'd just like to throw out. I mean, we're throwing out a lot of seasons right in the middle of deer season. If there's one thing I hear more about, I mean, okay, there's bears and there's horses, but come on. As far as other game species, it's having the antlerless elk hunters out stirring things up before the rifle elk, and also stirring up the deer during deer season. So and then having a split season in the process, that's bad PR, and that's something that ought to really disturb a lot of deer hunters and bull elk hunters. But I do agree that we need to have, I do agree that we do need to have some of these additional areas, and the idea of, from Lincoln County there, of adding 223 onto that one at the bottom of page 8 is probably a great idea. I think I'll stop my comments there. Go ahead.
I'm going to simplify a little, so I'm going to throw a motion out and see what happens here. I agree with all the new areas. We got 3, 6, 7 new areas, split seasons, and so I'm going to make a motion that on hunt 4181, the season dates are December, on all of them, December the 5th to January the 5th. Period.
Okay, and would that include the 101 to 103, the ones that they had split out? Because I know those were, had previously been separate, and the 222 to 231?
Yeah, all of them.
Okay.
For hunt 4181, the season dates are December 5th to January the 5th, and the new areas as recommended by the department.
Oh, all right. You know, I'd just like to throw out a little piece of discussion on that. The only change, you know, the only things I'd like to throw out would be that addition of 223 for Lincoln as a consideration. Maybe somebody wants to add in. Actually, I can't discuss because this hasn't been seconded yet.
Mr. Chairman, I need more clarification on the motion.
The motion was for all hunts on 4181 be December 5th to January 5th.
Okay, so there would be no early, late then? None?
All.
Okay.
That was the motion.
It's been seconded?
No, I was waiting on discussion.
I'll do that.
Okay, it's been seconded, so we can have some discussion. Now I can throw out my discussion here. I'd like to see a few things on that. One would be the addition of that area 223 to the last one there, to 231, 241, 242 early. That was brought up by Lincoln County. They'd like to see that additional unit. And then also, I know that the considerations on 101, the 101 to 103, they're having those 4 seasons or month-long. There was a lot of reason for that. I'd just like to see those seasons dealt with, the 101 to 103 especially dealt with separately, as well as the Atlanta Farms seasons, which, or basically that area, Atlanta Farms, which is the 222 to 231. I mean, I'd like to see those areas dealt with separately, because they should have possibly different season dates. I'm just talking. That's my discussion. I'm just discussing. All right, Mr. Vogler.
Both of those seasons seems to deal with conflicts with private landowners more than with, and also the 101 hunts is to limit the number of elk that are moving into the rubies.
Okay, so that was,
So I'd prefer what you're speaking about on both the depredation at the Atlanta Farms.
so is that in form of
I make
amendment?
that as an amendment to the motion.
Okay, so the motion's been, let me try to state that motion. So we have amendment to the main, oh yeah. Well, just so somebody can know so they can second it, if they would choose to. There is a proposed amendment which would amend the main motion to state the 101 to 103 hunts, all 4 of those would remain as presented by the department, and the hunts 222 to 231 would remain as proposed by the department. I believe that was the amendment. And was the 240, oh, was the 223 for Lincoln County added in on the bottom one as well? Whereas, I was just looking for a second on the motion. Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to amend the main motion to now, as I previously stated. Did that motion include the 223? I kind of heard that. Okay, and that was good with second. Okay. Is everybody clear on what the amendment is to the main motion? Okay, to the bottom, on bottom of page 8, the very last line. And on the only one that's on the top of page 9, we would add unit 223 to that unit grouping as 231, 241, and 242. They're adding that to the to that hunt. And the department previously, I know they'd said they agreed
Okay.
with that. But
Can I make a comment?
you're up.
I can only speak to the areas that I've hunt in regularly, and I can tell you that what you're doing is by not giving these cow hunters an option and you're throwing them all into this late season, that could be, I can tell you, you're going to be getting into a lot of weather issues. And as you have weather and the snows melt, then the roads get absolutely sloppy, messy. And so, you know, maybe we ought to put the search and rescue units in these counties on notice, because we're going to have a lot of people out there that are going to be in situations, or potentially in situations where they're going to, where if they were in these earlier times that are proposed, that it's going to, you know, be much more of an issue. In addition, it seems to me that that the success might go down, and that might impact what we're trying to do with our cow hunts with regard to our, you know, staying within our plans. So those would be my two comments. I'd love to hear from the department on the latter issue, and anybody else on the
Well,
others.
I know on that, we'd definitely be hearing about that when quotas showed up. Well, first we got an amendment to a motion, then we got the motion, but we'd hear all that if this happens to pass, then we'll hear all about it from the department. Probably in not polite words, possibly at times, but that's okay.
Well, how about if you hear it now?
We got an amendment on the floor, and we've got to keep it where it's at. Does everybody understand the amendment to the motion? All in favor of the amendment, signify by raising your hand. Okay, motion, and all opposed? Okay, we have 2 opposed to the amendment, Mr. Calvin, Mr. Macbeth. We now have main motion as amended. Does everybody understand the main motion as amended? Abstentions? Didn't see any abstentions. Okay. All right, now we have some discussion on the main motion, and I'll throw out just a piece of discussion on the main motion. I know one thing I've run into that, especially on the antlerless hunt, you know, it's late is generally good, and hopefully, you know, you might even get some more numbers of people out there hunting. The early seasons, one thing I have seen a lot of, it's the quality of the meat. A lot of antlerless hunters, if it's in a late season, you're a lot better off because you have a little more time. I've seen so many antlerless elk brought in that are really questionable, and they're brought in the same day, even in some of these October hunts. People you get them down a mile from the road and there's only 2 of you. It's a real issue, and it seems like bull hunters really come prepared, and cow hunters, for the most part, do, but, you know, we hate to see wasted game, and that's one thing. And I've also read a lot about it. You know, once they're established in the winter range, that's the time to go after them, and they won't be scattering the elk out beforehand for the rifle hunters. They won't be disturbing the deer hunters. It's kind of their own thing. They'll have the mountain more or less to themselves. And hopefully the cow elk will be off of the higher points in the mountains. So that's my discussion, which I am now done with. Mr. Cavan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This proposal is too far off base for what's been presented to the public and the cabs. I just don't see how we can possibly go there. these cow hunts are timed to, by the department the best they can to try and reduce these cow herds. I have some issues with the overcrowding, with hunts that overlap. I know we have those issues, but you know, the old days of when we had to, we were able to go up and hunt mule deer in Elko County and not see anybody, they're over. We have elk there now, and we're lucky to have elk there, and the guys that apply for these hunts are just going to have to be more selective on where they put in. And that was going to be one of my recommendations when we get to the end here, is that we put a notice in the hunt application book that we're going to have these issues, and to do your research beforehand before you put in. So I can't support anything close to what we're talking about.
All right.
Thank you. My biggest concern with Hunt 4181 is that I like early and late seasons, but to split a season into 3 parts, I think that's problematic. On the other hand, I'm not sure that making them all December 5th through January 1st is going to help the situation either. But I think all these that were split into 3 parts should have been presented, or maybe could be amended to an early and late with no mid in them.
All right. Any further discussion on the issue? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to express my thinking on these. I voted for the amendment for the protection of the depredation portion of that hunt. And I agree with the rest of the commissioners on the later season. I think there's going to be some issues with the weather, and I don't think I could support it even as amended. I just wanted to make sure that we had it to where at least the depredation part of that was protected for the ranchers. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Macbeth, you had something, then Mr. Vogler?
From
Mr.
Commissioner
Vogler?
Vogler.
The area that I deal with the most is 111, 112, and 113. The biggest gripes up there are the conflicts, but for 113 especially, which is just, there's no easy solution to it whatsoever just because of that. Utah, Go Shoot Reservation, and 113. If we have what we've had in the last 4 years, very mild Octobers, the cow hunters are even upset. The deer hunters are upset. Everything's right on top. And there are some cows that pull back in on isolated springs, but it's just a zoo no matter what. For 113, I'd recommend you have a hunt from December 5th till March 1st.
Is that a motion?
No, just being facetious here a little bit. I mean, for goodness sakes, just depending on the weather, that is probably the biggest problem with that, because if they're on the tops of the haystacks, they're in Utah, and they're almost inaccessible. If there are some few early storms, they're in the Go Shoot Reservation, or they're bugling them out of the tops. But that hunt on 113 early, as far as taking cow elk out, I'm all for it, but for goodness sakes, we can't make it work.
For 113, so do you have a motion to
No,
modify it in some manner?
I just making the statement that no
Okay.
matter what we do, we're probably going to be a little bit wrong somewhere.
Okay.
Just a comment on here, I agree. That was part of it, because that'll, by this season, we should have all the cow elk down where they're gonna be more accessible, but I don't see any reason why we have an early hunt, October 1 to 19th, and then the late hunt starts 2 months later, December the 5th to January the 10th. I mean, they're gonna be, I think the cow elk are gonna be down where the harvest is gonna go up, where you can have access to them at this time of the year, and it's going to be, shoot them before breeding season or after, it doesn't make a lot of difference, but I think you're gonna have a better harvest that way, and it's gonna simplify all these 2 months between seasons. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not a perfect solution, but, you know, it would probably cure a whole lot more problems than it will cause. But I think anything we do is that way. I know, we've just got to keep this commission, because we're trying to get these elk done before lunch.
I tell you, the more I look at this, I think that the department's proposal strikes the proper balance. There are hunters, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't heard many complaints from the cow hunters. I have heard of, few complaints, from some of the other hunters, deer, but for the most part, I think that pushing everything to the late season is going to eliminate a certain group of hunters, because there are hunters that don't like hunting in those kind of conditions, those kind of weather conditions. And so by having both an early and a late, season, I think it strikes the proper balance. I'm ready to make a motion to amend the motion again.
All right, and that amendment is?
My motion would be to amend the motion to basically take it back to the proposal of the department, which would also take into account the previous amendment. And I don't know if I need to add 223 to the very bottom hunt group, but if that's necessary, then I do that as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could we have a compromise here? Could we, instead of saying December 5th, could we say November 5th? Because I'll tell you what, like a lot of other folks, I've hunted that area up there. And it
November
can get
5th?
miserable even early in October. I've been snowed on in October up in there.
All right.
Late September, if we went ahead and took, say, November 5th.
Through to January 5th and just
that
make
would
it a
go
big...
ahead and- That gives us a chance to chill the meat, get the meat out. That's just an opinion, because I've been
All right.
there.
We can accommodate that, but currently we've got a motion, a second on the floor, and then we got to amend the motion, and then we got to vote on that amendment, and then we can come back and go with, we'll take yours as an amendment, and we'll see where that flies, regardless how this next one works. All right, does everybody understand the main motion, which is to amend the previous motion as amended to be, as the department said, with 223 only? All right, so we're voting on this is the second amendment. Your question on the amendment? No, he has not. We got an amendment from Commissioner McBeth that was seconded by Commissioner Cavan that stated everything is as department, to amend the main motion, say that everything is department presented with 223 added down to the last two areas. That's the current amendment. We're voting on an amendment to the amended motion. Everybody understand the amendment as it is currently presented? All in favor of that amendment signify by raising your hand. The amendment. All right. All opposed to that amendment? All right. I'm also be opposed to that amendment. So this amendment will fail. We have Commissioner Howell, Commissioner Cavan, Commissioner Lent, Commissioner Vogler, myself opposed to that amendment. Capurro, sorry. In favor. Too many C's. In favor was Commissioner Cavan. We have Commissioner Wallace, Commissioner McBeth, and Commissioner Shrum. Okay, so now we're back where we were. Did we have an additional amendment? Mr. Shrum had added an amendment to the main motion.
Or, excuse me, the amendment was to go ahead and move the December 5th date back to November 5th. Yes.
Which would add its own stuff. Okay. Yes.
Commissioners, I would have to be opposed to that. That's right during that rifle hunt for bull elk, and that would be a catastrophe in my area. Either we go back to the amendment that we just voted down, or go to the December 5th, but getting that cow season right in the middle of that bull season, it'd be horrible. And
Yeah, you're correct. I withdraw that, yes.
Okay, so we're back to the main motion.
Could I make a real quick statement? and I'm surprised Mr. Vogler hasn't said something. The way this thing is going, you may have to put out 1,000 tags to accomplish the population objective that we have committed to the livestock industry. So a lot of this is what's going on is going to create havoc, and we'll have something to say after this is all said and done. But this is very complex, as you all know.
Absolutely.
So,
All right, we got a motion and second on the floor. Let's see, I'm trying to look back just for comment on that. Let's see, it looks like our antlered any legal weapon hunts as they are, they end December 3rd. So to not conflict with them, about all you could do is maybe go December 4th. Would be the only way you could do that and accommodate the wishes of this current motion. And to not get in conflict with them. So that's, so if you want to move back another day as a motion, as an amendment to the motion, or we'll vote on the motion as it is, and then we'll see where we're at. I know, I just, if you wanted to throw out another one.
No.
Okay. Seeing none. Another amendment. Wait a minute, how many have we had now?
I think
So limit
Commissioner
to
Vogler
amendments.
might have another amendment.
Mr. Vogler, has any amendments?
Back to the conflicts with agriculture and with the Ruby Mountain ones. We've already taken care of those in the 223s at Atlanta
And Area 10.
and Area 10. Okay. Again,
Or 101 to 103, excuse me, I should state that. That's what we've done.
in most of the units, it appears to me that having the elk closer to their winter ranges takes them off of the tops of the mountains. That's why I thought that the December 5th to the January was more acceptable. I guess the question I would have at this point was, when it comes to the numbers, are we talking about 300 cow tags in some units, or are we talking about
That's the
2
next,
cow tags?
I think that's the next meeting. I mean,
I understand, so that's where it gets tough. You've got the conflict between the ranching community, but you also have the conflict with the deer hunters, the overlap of the bull seasons and everything like that. So this is obviously not an easy decision. But I'm willing to experiment. If it works for 2 years, fine. If not, we can always change it back.
okay, go ahead, Commissioner
Mr.
Lent.
Chairman and Commissioner Vogel, if you look at last year's 4181, we're looking at, we had some areas at 106 tags, 88, 10, 10, 10. We had an area 191, 5, 42, 33. If you had to average those out, we're probably averaging about 40 tags per unit. And I'm not sure, there's a couple units here like 06107 that had 195. But you're looking at, those are the numbers roughly you're looking at, and I don't know if that justifies a split season or not. And we don't have like hundreds and hundreds in one area, or 30 or 40 in an area, and I don't know if that justifies a split season. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so I think we're about ready for vote on the motion as amended, and the way it is currently amended, it states that, the following areas remain as presented by the department, which is all 4 of the 101 to 103 hunts, all 4 of the 222 to 231 hunts, that the 231, that the 231, 241, 242 area will also include Unit 223. But that and all of the other seasons, with those exceptions, 101, 103, 222, 231, have dates of December 5th through January 5th. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand. All opposed? Okay, so we have 4 to, okay, excuse me. So we have in favor of that motion, we have Commissioner Vogler, Commissioner Lent, Commissioner Howell. Opposed to the motion, we have Commissioner Shrum, Commissioner Cavan, Commissioner Capurro, Commissioner Wallace, Commissioner Macbeth. So ready for another motion. You know, and then trying to throw out some ideas here for somebody, you know, probably the worst offenders for the, causing problems here, I think, within this are probably all these multiple new October seasons. So maybe you can take away a stab at dealing with, you know, perhaps to make it simpler, we could I would entertain a motion to first approve what seems to be unanimous here, which is 101 to 103, all four of those as presented, 222, 231, all four of those as presented. And that would make, and then we can deal with the rest of it, because I keep repeating those numbers. If you want to present those, I think we have unanimous. Okay. Well, but that will be included in anything else. So we have a second on that, which is simply to prove the things appear unanimous, which is 101 to 103, all four seasons, 222, 231, all four of those seasons as proposed by the department. For 2 years. Well, there's four of them on 222, 231. There are 4 seasons. And I'm not dealing with that. Just try to get the unanimous stuff. Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to do that. Does everybody understand that motion? All in favor signify by stating aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-1, Commissioner Lent. Opposed. Now, we're back with all the rest of those units. Okay. Commissioner Capurro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Take a stab at it. I would move that we eliminate the mid-season from 072, 073, 074, and 075, and extend the early hunt accordingly in all 4 of those. 2, 3, 4. Which would mean that the early hunt would go from October 1st to
Just to clarify a motion, now, you were wanting to eliminate would that include I guess you'd call it a mid-hunt on 061, 071, 062, those, because those are the same thing, or was that your intent?
The only ones that have the mid-hunt, as I can see, are the,
I mean, some of them they're calling mid, but some of them they're calling
I see.
late.
You
It's like,
call them
it's the same season dates. Just asking if that was a motion.
No, the motion was to eliminate the mid hunts for 072 through 075 and extend the early seasons on those 4 hunts from October 1st to October 10th to October 20th. So the early seasons in all 5 of those would be from October 1st to October 20th.
All right, so we got that for discussion. And then I'd ask, I'm just trying to figure out now on if okay, those, and then what about, do we have motion on any of the rest of it? We're just talking those 4?
Well, that's the only 4 that I'm dealing with in this.
Okay. So we just want to deal with 072, 73, 74, 75. And since we're dealing with those units, we have the late season on those units, and we didn't talk about that late. We're just talking about early and mid. Okay. Basically combine those. Okay. Everybody understand the current yeah, that was a second by Commissioner Cavan. And this is a motion only on those 4 areas, 4 units. I'm just trying to figure out how that works out in here. And then we'll, on all those units, we'd also then have the November 22nd to January 1st hunt. Okay? Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, regarding this motion, I'll be against it because I don't see what that's accomplishing. It's not doing anything because those seasons are continuous, and they're good split season if you're going to have them. October 1 to October 10, October 11, and October 20, you're splitting them up. But some of these other ones, early and late, are 2 months apart, and those are the ones I can't see 2 months apart. But just eliminating a couple of mid-seasons, I have no idea what that's accomplished. Why would you want to do that?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out. This is almost time to lunch to think on that one. I haven't had the sandwiches here yet, have they? They are here. We want to try to keep pounding this one out, or just have lunch and pound it out when we're done? All right. The motion is, now, was the motion to approve those hunts? Just to eliminate that mid-hunt? To change the dates? And that, but I'm just trying to get this clear in my mind. So this is, we are approving those hunts with that change, in those 4 units.
Eliminating the mid-hunt and extending the early hunt.
Okay, that is the current motion on the table for strictly speaking of those 4 units and those, well, it'd be a total of 8 hunts, combining them into 4. Does everybody understand the motion? All in favor of that motion signify by stating, or by raising your hand. Let's do that. All opposed? Okay, that motion passes 6 to, Commissioner Lent opposed, or 7. In favor, opposed?
I abstain. I think it's ridiculous.
Commissioner Howell, 1 abstention, one in opposition. We better have lunch
Speak your
here.
mind, Charlie.
We better have lunch and think about the rest of this. All right. Stand adjourned for till about 5 after.
What do you want to do with the rest of it? What do you want to do with the rest of it?